Ah, the world of theater. The art of drama has brought entertainment, enjoyment, and curiosity to our everyday lives. But curiosity is usually summoned by confusing and difficult something or others, and the world of drama has many playwrights who express their art through words and details the untrained eye cannot see. And one of these people is none other than Anton Chekhov. Wait, Anton Chekhov.
Are you out of your freaking mind? You can't read Anton Chekhov. You'll die because his stuff is super hard to understand. And he has crazy hair, and everyone with crazy hair is super hard to understand, and blah, blah, blah.
That is probably what you're thinking to yourself. So, to anyone thinking that, I say that you are a fool! Anton Chekhov is not that hard once you know what to do and you give it a chance, just like you would with William Shakespeare or Pedro Calderón de la Barca. You just need the right tools to understand. And since I do, I will have to talk to you and tell you about Anton Chekhov's best and last works. So join me, Arobai and Thon, as I talk about The Cherry Orchard. Now, before we dive into the plot, we have to understand the history of the play and a little of Anton Chekhov. Anton Chekhov was a Russian playwright and author who wrote a bunch of short stories and 4 plays during his life. Wait, only 4 plays? Whoa. I mean, with only 4 plays, he must have been really overlooked in his time. But what he lacked in attention, he made all that up with the most important element in his art style: subtext. Subtext is the true meaning behind the words of the text. Kind of like if the script had thoughts of its own. And now, let's look at the background of the play. The Cherry Orchard takes place during the fall of the aristocracy and the rise of the merchant class at the beginning of the 20th century. The play premiered January 1904 at the Moscow Art Theater. The play was intended by Chekhov to be a comedy, but this guy, who directed the Moscow Art Theater production, directed the play to be a tragedy. Hey, here's a bit of trivia for you guys. 1904 was the exact same year that Anton Chekhov died. I wonder if there's a connection. Probably. We'll look a little more into that later. Over the years after Anton Chekhov's death, The Cherry Orchard was directed into several productions. The most recent was performed by the Classic Stage Company production in New York. The New York Times gave it a pretty good review. This production had pretty good actors to play every role. The play altogether is a 4-act play with 3 settings that are, and in order of appearance, the nursery, a meadow with an abandoned cathedral nearby, and a drawing room with a ballroom cut off by an arc. This scene from Act 1 is also used in Act 4. You know, with all the information we know, I bet I could put on a pretty good production myself. But how to do it? Let's see. The play has 3 separate settings, so my production will have to take place on a main stage because of how big the play and the settings are. Now, a good play has to have good actors for each role. For this, I will give a character description and the actor who will play that person. These actors I've chosen because they were the faces I saw in each character in my head while reading this play. No special reason other than that. Lubov Andreevna could be considered the main character, but she is definitely the main focus. Her family owns the cherry orchard, the estate, and the land which both are on. She's a bit emotionally messed up from her past, which we'll explore into later. To play her, I chose Deborah Jo Roop. Her daughter, Anya, is 17. She's the hopeful one of the family. She is also the one staying strong for all of them. To play her, I chose Anne Hathaway. Lubov's adopted daughter, Varia, who we never know where she exactly comes from, is a very serious character and is torn to marry another main character. I picked Keira Knightley to play her. Leonid Andreevich Gaev is Lubov's brother and is also a rich guy. To play him, I have Ian McKellen. The next character we will be looking at is 2 and 20 Troubles, also known as Yipikatov. This is a character who is visited daily by misfortune, hence the name 2 and 20 Troubles. Since he is a big source of comedy in this play, I will have Richard Idle play him. Next is Yermolai Alexeyevich Lopakhin, who is indeed a crucial character in all of this. He comes from a poor family and is now a rich, hard-working merchant who tries to help the family with their predicament. To play him, I chose Jeffrey Tambor. Pyotr Sergeyevich Trofimov, who is an older man but is still a student. He is also love interest of Anya. To play him, I have Elijah Wood. Simeon Pishin is also a landowner, but is going through some rough times, so he spends some of the play asking Lubov for money she doesn't have. To play him is Scott Baio. Charlotta Ivanova is a governess who is hired to take care of Anya. She's the best the family can afford to look after Anya. She also does tricks and such. To play her is Laurie Metcalf. Dunyasha is a maid at the Gaev estate and is an attention hog. Yipikatov proposed to her, but she loves another character. To play her, I chose Bridget Regan. Next is Yasha. He is a jerk, but he is the best manservant the family can afford, just like Charlotta Ivanova. He is the character Dunyasha is in love with. To play him, I chose Craig Honer. And of course, I saved the most important character for last. Ooh, a real drum roll, nice. The actor Bruce Spence shall play Fears! Fears is 87 and has been around the family for a long time. He goes on rants about the old days, and he is the most important character in the play for reasons I shall explain soon. The suspense! I'm so evil and twisted! Anyway, the play is written realistically, so that's how I'll have it. And that's the plan for a production. And now we must ask ourselves some very vital questions. What is an orchard? Why did Chekhov choose an orchard of cherry trees? And why am I suddenly speaking in a British accent? I can only answer 2 out of 3 of these questions. An orchard is a large area of trees. Most of the time, they are the same kind of tree, so in this case it is a cherry tree, otherwise known in Japan as the sakura blossom. The sakura blossom is highly revered in Japan. It is everywhere, in the country, anime, and manga. During World War II, the sakura blossom was a great inspiration to soldiers. Kamikaze pilots would paint the tree on the sides of their planes right before they flew to their deaths to destroy their enemy lines. And this idea spawns stories that falls off the sakura blossom represents a soldier that has fallen during the war, and whatever soldiers there may be. What a sad story. But other than that, it is a lovely tree to have a picnic under, and
Oh, for freak's sake! Stop being a Kebora Gebora! Just stop it! Stop telling us useless information we don't care about! Get on with the explanation of the plot!
that's probably what you're thinking to yourself right now. And all I have to say is, I am not telling you irrelevant information. This is all connected, man. After we explain the plot, you'll understand. Speaking of which, let's finally do that! The cherry orchard takes place in Russia. Before the actual story, Lubov Andreevna's husband got the family in deep debt, then died from drinking. After his death, Lubov fell in love with another man, and a month after that, her 7-year-old son drowned to death. What? That's messed up. And I can tell you that not only shocked me, it affected her so much she left Russia. And apparently her boyfriend followed her. She bought a villa near Menton, and that's when her boyfriend started being an ass like Ashnard. Then he got ill, and Lubov spent almost all her money trying to take care of him because Lubov doesn't know how to maintain her money. That put her in debt there, so she had to sell the villa and move to Paris, where the nameless boyfriends continued to pursue her and then left Lubov for another woman. What an ass like Ashnard! So with Paris dead to Lubov, Anya came and got her, and they rode back on a train to Russia. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, back at home, the estate and the cherry orchard has to be sold in order to pay the debt on the house. Now while Lubov is away, Lopakhin and Dunyasha look after the estate. When Lubov comes home after 5 long years, she learns of her options. Either sell the orchard, or go with Lopakhin's plan, which is that if he gets the cherry orchard, he can lease summer cottages that will be built on the land, and the family will get an income of 2,500 rubles a year, so they can get out of debt without the land being sold to someone else. Hooray! The downside to this, though, the estate would have to be boarded up because it's no use to anyone, and the cherry orchard cut down. Throughout Act 1 and Act 2, the family frets on what they will do, and they just decide to sell it off, with a backup plan that Gaev will buy the cherry orchard himself. at the end of Act 3, we learn that despite Gaiev's efforts, Pakin bought the estate and the cherry orchard anyways. Then in Act 4 is the end scene where everyone is packing up and saying their farewells and going their separate ways. So, Lopakin made a deal to get the land, but in the end, he got the orchard anyway. What a sneaky little merchant. But I guess that's what you expect in this time period. But I think this goes a little deeper than just getting the orchard and making a profit off of it. You gotta remember that Lopakin grew up in a poor family, and now he is a successful merchant. So my guess is that he is pursuing the cherry orchard because if he gets it, then he's proving to himself and everyone else that he's not just some poor kid that got beaten up by his drunken father anymore. So not only is there social change in the way of life, there's some social change going on in the people too. I guess this makes us realize that change is hard. But maybe there's some good in moving forward because nothing lasts forever, even history. That's what merchants like Lopakin are all about. Moving forward in life to start anew. Oh, I almost forgot. We still have to understand Fears' role in all this. I mean, I did say he was the most important character in the play. So let's find out why. In order to understand this, we have to look at him throughout the play. In Act 1, when Lubov returns, he says, "My mistress has come home, and I've seen her at last. Now I can die." Throughout the play, he has briefly appeared, and usually it's when Gaiev tells him to go away. In Act 3, he starts coming down with an illness. In Act 4, he is supposed to be taken to the hospital, but everyone forgot, didn't know, or didn't bother to double check. Yasha. So when the estate is locked up, Fears is left inside. And he goes out with the line, "Life has gone by as if I had never lived." Wait a moment, wait a minute. Hold the phone. Something's not right here. That line that Fears said, then Fears being not so there the whole play, that in Anton Chekhov's play. Oh my god. Oh my god! Fears is the Walking Dead! No, I am not kidding. The Cherry Orchard was the last play Anton Chekhov ever wrote. It was premiered in the exact same year he died. He wrote 4 plays and some short stories. Fears is an old guy who's ill and he barely gets more attention than he should. And when he's left inside, he realizes that this is how he's gonna die. So, he just lies down and accepts his fate. And is it just me, or does this ending have a little to do with foreshadowing Anton's death? Probably so! It also has to do with the fall of the aristocrats, since Fears has been around almost as long as the Cherry Orchard and the estate itself. Because he's like 1,000 years old. And he dies at the same time the Cherry Orchard is chopped down. The last remaining beauty of Russia's old days gets torn down with a man who grew up in that time period. And we will remember him for that. Just as we remember Anton, because he did make an impact on the world, even if people back then didn't acknowledge his brilliance. And he left us a reminder of the last bits of the aristocracy era. Fiers and the Orchard. Now, both are dead. The old has been replaced with the new. So Fiers and Anton, they're just fallen soldiers now. Just more petals that have fallen off the cherry.